when Marissa leaned back in her chair and said, "If you actually loved your son, you'd help him succeed instead of clinging to your money." Something inside me went cold as winter steel. I didn't raise my voice, didn't argue. I simply reached for my wallet, pulled out my phone, and canceled the wire transfer I'd scheduled that morning for $25,000. Then I looked Derek straight in the eye and said, "You'll have to earn it yourself, son." Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The evening had started like any other family dinner at our Phoenix home. Carol had spent the afternoon preparing Derek's favorite pot roast, the one she'd been making for him since he was 12. The dining room smelled of rosemary and garlic, and autumn sunlight filtered through the lace curtains Carol's mother had given us 30 years ago. Derek arrived first, giving his mother that boyish smile that had always melted her heart, telling her about his new promotion at the insurance company. "Dad, you're looking good," he said, gripping my shoulder with genuine warmth. "Retirement suits you." I'd been retired for 2 years now, after 43 years as an electrician. My hands, once steady enough to wire a house in complete darkness, had developed a slight tremor. But I felt good, felt useful. Carol and I had plans, travel, maybe a cabin up in Flagstaff for the summers. When Marissa arrived 20 minutes later, she kissed my cheek and complimented Carol's new haircut. We talked about the grandchildren. Little Tommy had just started kindergarten, and Sarah was walking now. Marissa showed us videos on her phone, and we laughed at Tommy's attempts to tie his shoes. "You know," Derek said as Carol served dessert, "we've been looking at condos in Scottsdale. There's this perfect place, 3 bedrooms, walking distance to good schools." His eyes lit up as he described it: the granite countertops, the community pool, the 2-car garage. "It sounds wonderful, sweetheart," Carol said, serving him an extra large piece of apple pie. "We put in an offer yesterday," Marissa added, taking Derek's hand. "It's a stretch financially, but it's such a good investment." I smiled, genuinely happy for them. "What's the down payment looking like?" Derek glanced at Marissa, then back at me. "Well, that's actually what we wanted to talk to you about. We need $25,000 for the down payment, and we thought, well, we were hoping you'd consider it an early inheritance. You know, a gift to help us get started." The room went quiet. Carol's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "A gift?" I asked carefully. "Right?" Derek said quickly. "I mean, we've talked about this before, haven't we? About how you wanted to help us get established." I frowned. "Son, I don't recall having that conversation." That's when Marissa's face changed. The sweetness drained out of her expression like water through a sieve. She set down her fork with a sharp clink against her plate and looked at me with something close to disgust. "Are you serious right now?" she said, her voice rising. "Frank, Derek has been telling me for months how supportive you are, how you believe in investing in family. And now you're going to sit there and pretend you never said you'd help us." Carol was staring at her plate now, her knuckles white around her napkin. "Marissa," I said slowly, "I never made any such promise. If you actually loved your son, you'd help him succeed instead of clinging to your money," she snapped. "What are you planning to do with it? Take it to the grave? You've got more than enough. This is Derek's future we're talking about. Your grandchildren's future." The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the kitchen clock ticking, the hum of the refrigerator, a dog barking somewhere in the neighborhood. Carol was looking at her hands now, and Derek was staring at the table, his face flushed red. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I think you should leave," I said quietly. "Dad," Derek started. "Now." They left without another word. Carol and I cleaned up in silence, the sound of dishes clinking together the only conversation we had for the rest of the night. I sat in my workshop that night, surrounded by the tools of my trade: wire strippers, voltage meters, junction boxes stacked in neat rows. But instead of working, I was remembering. The shop light cast harsh shadows as I pulled out an old shoebox from behind my workbench, filled with receipts and canceled checks. There was the receipt from 2010, $3,200 for Derek's transmission repair when his car broke down during his second year of college. I'd had to dip into our vacation fund that year, but Carol and I told ourselves it was worth it to keep him mobile and in school. The check from 2012, $4,500 to cover his credit card debt after graduation. Just until I get on my feet, Dad, he'd promised. I'll pay you back within a year. That was 13 years ago. Another receipt, $8,000 in 2015 for the down payment on his apartment when he and Marissa got engaged. We'll make sure you and Mom are always taken care of, Marissa had said then, holding my hand across the kitchen table. The lawyer's bill from 2017, $2,800 to handle Derek's DUI case. I'd had to cancel a cruise Carol had been planning for months. She'd never complained, just quietly tucked the brochures away in a drawer. Month after month, year after year. Car insurance payments when he couldn't afford them. Hospital bills when Tommy was born. Emergency loans for Marissa's root canal, for new tires, for utility deposits, for a security system they absolutely needed after their neighbor's house was broken into. I added it up 3 times using the calculator Carol kept in the kitchen drawer. The total made my chest tight, $46,847 over 15 years. Not including the Christmas gifts, the birthday money for the grandkids, the groceries I'd bought when they came for dinner twice a week for 3 years straight. This was the same Derek I'd taught to change a light switch when he was 10. The same boy who'd helped me rewire our garage, who'd sat in my truck while I worked weekend jobs to pay for his little league uniforms and piano lessons. The same young man I'd walked to the altar 3 years ago, tears in my eyes as I handed him over to the woman who now thought I was too selfish to deserve my own son's respect. I didn't cry that night. I counted. I made coffee at 4 a.m. and spread everything out on the kitchen table. Every receipt, every canceled check, every bank statement showing withdrawals made for Derek's benefit. Carol found me there when she woke up at 6, papers covering every inch of the oak table her grandmother had left her. "How much?" she asked quietly, pouring herself coffee. $46,847, I said. Not counting interest, not counting the opportunities we missed, the trips we didn't take, the renovations we put off for this house. Carol sat down across from me, her gray hair still messy from sleep. "What are you thinking, Frank?" I looked at my wife of 47 years, this woman who'd never once complained when I chose Derek's needs over our wants, who'd worked part-time at the grocery store for 12 years to help make ends meet while I supported our son's endless emergencies. "I'm thinking," I said carefully, "that it's time Derek learned what it means to earn something." The law office of Peterson and Associates was downtown, in one of those glass buildings that always looked like they were reaching for something. James Peterson was older than I expected, maybe 65, with gray hair and steady hands that reminded me of my own before the arthritis set in. "Mr. McMillan," he said, reviewing the documents I'd brought, "this is quite extensive. You've been very generous with your son over the years. Too generous, it seems. And you want to modify your will? Completely rewrite it." I slid a folder across his desk. "Derek gets nothing. Everything goes to Carol, and when she passes, it goes into education trusts for the grandchildren. Direct access when they turn 18, but only for college, trade school, or starting a legitimate business." Peterson nodded. "That's certainly your right. But may I ask what prompted this decision?" I told him about dinner, about Marissa's words, about Derek's assumption that my money was already his. Peterson listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. "There's something else," I said. "I want you to prepare a detailed accounting of every dollar I've given Derek over the past 15 years. Dates, amounts, purposes. Everything documented and notarized." "For what purpose?" "Insurance," I said. "In case he tries to claim I was never supportive, never helped him. I want proof of exactly how much support he's received." Peterson worked for 2 weeks preparing the documents. The final accounting was 7 pages long, single-spaced, with copies of receipts and bank statements attached. When I saw it all laid out in legal format, the pattern was even clearer. Derek had never paid back a single loan, never even offered. Every request was framed as an emergency, every amount was just temporary, and every promise to return the favor was forgotten within months. While Peterson worked on the legal documents, I made my own preparations. I called Derek's mortgage company, the same one that had financed our house 30 years earlier. Tom Brewster, the loan officer, had handled our account for decades. "Frank," Tom said when I walked into his office, "how's retirement treating you?" "Can't complain." "Tom, I need to ask you about something confidential. My son Derek applied for a mortgage recently. I co-signed some documents for him a few months back, but I can't remember exactly what I agreed to." Tom pulled up Derek's file on his computer. "Let's see. Derek McMillan. Yes, here it is. You're listed as guarantor on his mortgage application. If he defaults, you're responsible for the full amount of the loan." My hands went cold. "What's the loan amount?" $430,000. I kept my voice steady. "Tom, I want to remove myself as guarantor. What's the process for that?" "Well, that would require Derek to qualify for the loan on his own, or find another guarantor." "His current income." Tom scrolled through the file. "I have to say, Frank, without your guarantee, this loan wouldn't have been approved. His debt-to-income ratio is pretty high." "What kind of high?" "Let me put it this way. He's got about $68,000 in credit card debt, a car loan for $35,000, and his monthly income after taxes is around $4,200. Without your guarantee, no bank would touch this mortgage." I left Tom's office with copies of every document I'd signed, every paper that made me responsible for Derek's financial decisions. I'd signed them 6 months ago, during a quick visit when Derek said he needed just a signature or two for some standard paperwork. I trusted him completely. That afternoon, I called Derek's cell phone. "Hey, Dad," he answered on the second ring. His voice was cautious. "Derek, we need to talk. Can you come by the house tonight? Without Marissa." "Is this about the other night? Because I think we all just got a little heated." 8 o'clock, I said, and hung up. Derek arrived at exactly 8, looking like a man walking to his own execution. He sat in the same chair where he'd asked for $25,000 2 weeks earlier, but now his hands were shaking slightly as he poured himself coffee from the pot Carol had left on the table. "Dad, look, I know Marissa came on strong the other night. She's just stressed about the house, about getting the kids into good schools." "Derek," I interrupted, sliding a manila folder across the table. "I want you to look at something." He opened the folder and his face went white as he read the first page. "Dad, what is this?" "It's an accounting of every dollar I've given you over the past 15 years. Prepared by a lawyer, notarized, completely documented." Derek flipped through the pages, his breathing getting shallow. Why would you have this made?" "Because I wanted to see if I was the selfish old man Marissa described. I wanted to know if I'd really been clinging to my money instead of helping my son." "Dad, this isn't fair. These were gifts, they were $46,847, I said quietly. "Plus interest if we're being technical, but I won't charge you interest, Derek. I'm not a bank." Derek set the papers down with trembling hands. "What do you want me to say? Thank you? I've thanked you for all of this. I want you to explain something to me." I slid another folder across the table. "I want you to explain why you made me guarantor on your mortgage without telling me what I was signing." This time, Derek actually pushed back from the table. "Dad, I can explain. $430,000. Derek, if you default on this mortgage, if you miss payments, if you lose your job or get sick or decide you don't feel like paying, I lose my house. Carol loses her home. That would never happen. I would never let that happen. Like you'd never let me pay for your DUI lawyer? Like you'd never let me cover your credit card debt 3 separate times? Like you'd never ask me for money in front of your wife without discussing it first." Derek was crying now, ugly sobs that shook his shoulders. "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to get this complicated." "It's not complicated, son. It's simple. You've been treating my bank account like your personal emergency fund for 15 years, and I allowed it because I thought I was helping you become independent. Instead, I taught you that there would always be someone to bail you out." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the backyard where I taught Derek to throw a baseball, where we'd built a treehouse that was still standing in the old oak tree. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, not turning around. "Tomorrow morning, you're going to call your mortgage company and remove me as guarantor. If that means you can't afford the house, then you can't afford the house. You're going to refinance with someone else's guarantee, or you're going to find something cheaper. Dad, please. I'm also changing my will. You won't inherit this house, Derek. You won't inherit our savings, our investments, or anything else. That money will go into trusts for Tommy and Sarah, for their education." Derek was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm finally stopping doing things for you. Mom will never let you cut me out. She loves me." "Your mother," I said, finally turning to face him, "worked part-time at a grocery store for 12 years to help pay for your emergencies. She gave up cruise vacations and new furniture and a dozen other things because we were always broke from helping you. She loves you enough to watch you fail if that's what it takes for you to learn to succeed." Derek left that night without saying goodbye to his mother. The next morning, Carol found me in the workshop, organizing my tools. "How did it go?" she asked. "He'll either grow up now or he won't. But we're done raising him." Carol nodded. "Good," she said, and kissed my forehead. For 3 days, nothing happened. I began to think maybe Derek would handle it quietly, professionally. Maybe he'd found another solution, another family member willing to guarantee his mortgage, or perhaps a way to refinance with a different bank. Then the Facebook post appeared. Carol saw it first. She wasn't much for social media, but our neighbor Judy had called to tell her she might want to see what Derek was saying online. Carol spent 20 minutes trying to figure out how to access Derek's Facebook page before calling me for help. The post was long, rambling, and designed for maximum sympathy. Derek painted himself as the victim of cruel, selfish parents who had suddenly turned their backs on him when he asked for a small amount of help. He claimed I'd promised to help with the house, then went back on my word and left him hanging. He suggested I was becoming senile, that I was not the father I used to be, and that Carol was too scared to stand up to me. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the responses. Derek's cousin Mike, "Dude, that's awful. I can't believe Uncle Frank would do that to you." A woman I didn't recognize. "Some people get selfish when they get old. My dad did the same thing. Sorry you're going through this." Derek's coworker, "Have you tried talking to a lawyer? There might be laws about elderly financial abuse." Elderly financial abuse. Derek was suggesting that the man who'd given him nearly $50,000 over 15 years, was financially abusing him by refusing to give him more. The post had 47 comments when Carol showed it to me, and more kept appearing. Cousins, old family friends, people from Derek's work, all expressing sympathy, all telling him what terrible parents we were, all offering their own stories of disappointment with older family members. But there was more. Derek had posted a follow-up comment an hour later. "Thanks for all the support, everyone. It's hard when the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally suddenly start putting conditions on that love. I guess money is more important to some people than family. My kids are asking why Grandpa and Grandma don't want to see them anymore, and I don't know what to tell them." That line about the grandchildren not seeing us was a complete lie. We'd seen Tommy and Sarah just the weekend before, taking them to the zoo and buying them ice cream. Derek had dropped them off Saturday morning and picked them up Sunday evening, thanking us for watching them while he and Marissa went to a wedding. But his Facebook friends didn't know that. To them, Derek looked like a struggling father whose elderly parents had suddenly cut him off from their grandchildren over money. I read the post twice, then handed Carol's phone back to her. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I was thinking about my father, who'd worked 2 jobs to put me through trade school and never asked for anything in return. I was thinking about the house we'd bought with money we'd saved dollar by dollar, the life we'd built with our own hands and our own work. I was thinking about Derek at 10 years old, helping me fix Mrs. Patterson's porch light and refusing to accept her offer of $5 because Dad says we help neighbors for free. I'm thinking," I said, "that it's time for the whole family to see those receipts. But first, I wanted to understand exactly how deep Derek's financial problems ran." The next morning, I drove to the credit union where Derek had his car loan. Sarah Martinez had been working there for 12 years, and she'd handled several of our accounts over the years. When I explained what I needed, she hesitated. Mr. McMillan, I can't give you specific information about Derek's accounts without his permission. I'm not asking for account details, Sarah. I'm asking you to help me understand something as his father and his mortgage guarantor. If Derek defaults on his car loan, what happens? Well, the car would be repossessed, and any remaining balance after the sale would become an unsecured debt. How much does he owe on the car? Sarah pulled up Derek's account. I can tell you that his current balance is about $34,000, and the car is worth maybe $22,000 in today's market. So if he defaulted today, he'd still owe us roughly $12,000. And he's current on his payments? For now. But Mr. McMillan, between you and me, his payment history shows he's been late several times in the past year. Never more than 30 days. But it's a pattern. I thanked Sarah and left, but not before stopping at the bank next door to check on Derek's credit card debt. The loan officer there, a young man named Kevin, was less forthcoming with information, but he did confirm that Derek had consolidated his credit cards through their bank 8 months earlier. The consolidation loan was for $68,000, Kevin said. It combined debt from 4 different credit cards. His monthly payment is around $850. And he's current on that? As of last month, yes. But Mr. McMillan, that's a significant amount of consumer debt. Combined with a mortgage and car payment, his monthly debt service has to be close to $3,000. I did the math on the drive home. Derek's take-home pay was about $4,200 per month. His debt payments totaled roughly $3,000. That left him $1,200 for housing costs, utilities, groceries, gas, insurance, and everything else a family of 4 needed. No wonder he'd needed me to guarantee his mortgage. No wonder he was asking for $25,000 more. Derek wasn't just living paycheck to paycheck. He was drowning in debt and using our family relationships to stay afloat. That evening, I called my nephew Robert, Derek's cousin, who'd left one of the more supportive comments on Facebook. Robert was a sensible man, an accountant who'd always been close to Derek growing up. "Uncle Frank," Robert said when he answered the phone. "I saw Derek's post. I'm sorry you guys are going through this. Robert, before you make up your mind about what's happening, I'd like you to see some documentation. Can you come by the house tomorrow evening?" "What kind of documentation?" "Financial records. A complete accounting of what Derek is claiming versus what actually happened." Robert was quiet for a moment. "Uncle Frank, Derek says you promised to help with the house and then changed your mind." "Derek says a lot of things, Robert. I'd like you to see the facts before you decide what to believe." The next evening, Robert sat at our kitchen table reviewing the same documents I'd shown Peterson. He was quiet for a long time, occasionally asking questions, taking notes on a legal pad. Finally, he looked up at me. "Uncle Frank, this is a lot of money. $46,847, I said. "Plus the mortgage guarantee for $430,000 more. And Derek never paid any of this back?" "Not a dollar. Every loan became a gift. Every emergency became our emergency." Robert flipped through the mortgage documents. "Jesus, Uncle Frank. You guaranteed his whole mortgage? Do you understand what this means?" "I understand it now. I didn't when I signed the papers." "Derek told you this was standard paperwork?" "That's exactly what he said." Robert set down the documents and rubbed his face with his hands. "Uncle Frank, I owe you an apology. I commented on Derek's post without knowing the whole story. You believed your cousin. That's natural. I believed a lie." Robert picked up his phone. "Do you mind if I delete my comment on his post?" "That's up to you, Robert." "No, it's not. I publicly supported Derek without knowing the facts. The least I can do is publicly correct my mistake." Robert spent 10 minutes on his phone, deleting his original comment and posting a new one. "Derek, after learning more about this situation, I need to retract my previous comment. Uncle Frank and Aunt Carol have been incredibly generous and supportive over the years. I think you owe them an apology. Within an hour, Robert's new comment had 12 likes and 3 replies from other family members asking what he'd learned. Derek responded with an angry private message to Robert, calling him a traitor and accusing him of being bought off by his uncle. Robert forwarded me Derek's message. "Uncle Frank," he said when he called. "Derek is really angry. He's saying you showed me fake documents. What do you think, Robert?" "I think Derek is scared that the truth is coming out. The reunion was Carol's idea. If he wants to make this public," she said, "then let's make it public. Let's invite everyone who commented on that post. Let's invite everyone who thinks they know the whole story." We sent invitations to 34 people, every cousin, aunt, uncle, and family friend who'd expressed an opinion about Derek's situation. The invitation was simple. Frank and Carol McMillan invite you to a family gathering to discuss recent misunderstandings and set the record straight. Carol spent 2 days cooking. I spent those days preparing my presentation. The family room was packed. Derek arrived with Marissa and the kids, looking like a man who'd been expecting a different kind of gathering. He'd probably told Marissa that his parents were finally ready to apologize, ready to give him the money he needed. I waited until everyone had coffee and Carol's cookies. Then I stood up. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "I know Derek has shared his feelings about our recent disagreement, and I think it's important that everyone understands the complete situation." I'd borrowed a projector from my old union hall. The first slide was simple. Financial support provided to Derek McMillan, 2009 to 2024. The room went quiet. Before anyone makes judgments about whether Carol and I have been supportive parents, I continued, "I want to share some facts." I went through it all methodically, professionally. Every check, every loan, every emergency payment. I had pictures of the receipts, copies of the bank statements, documentation for every dollar. When I got to the mortgage guarantee, $430,000 of liability, I'd accepted without fully understanding the implications. Derek's face went ashen. "The total," I said, clicking to the final slide, "is $46,847 over 15 years. This doesn't include Christmas gifts, birthday money for the grandchildren, or the weekly dinners Derek's family ate at our table for 3 years." The silence was deafening. I looked around the room, at Derek's cousins, at our old friends, at the people who'd been so quick to judge us based on a Facebook post. Derek claimed that we suddenly turned our backs on him when he asked for a small amount of help. I continued. The small amount was $25,000. He didn't ask for it. He announced that I was giving it to him in front of his wife, as if it were already decided. I clicked to a photo of Derek's Facebook post, projected on the wall for everyone to see. This post suggests that I'm becoming senile, that Carol is too scared to stand up to me, and that we've never been supportive parents. Everyone in this room can now see the documentary evidence that suggests otherwise. Derek stood up suddenly. "Dad, stop. Please. I want to be clear," I continued, ignoring him. "This isn't about the money. This is about honesty. Derek has been telling people that his parents abandoned him when he needed help. The truth is that his parents supported him financially for 15 years, and when he demanded more money in a disrespectful manner, we finally said no. That's when Carol stood up. My quiet, gentle wife, who hadn't raised her voice to Derek since he was a teenager, looked at her son with an expression I'd never seen before. "Derek," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room, "we raised you to be a man, not a parasite. You've lost us." Derek's face crumpled. "Mom, you brought your wife into our home, ate our food, let her insult your father, and then posted lies about us on the internet for the world to see. What kind of man does that to his parents?" Derek looked around the room desperately, but every face was turned away from him now. His cousins, who'd defended him online, were staring at their coffee cups. His work friends were checking their phones. Even Marissa was looking at the floor. "You want to know what your father did when you posted those lies?" Carol continued, her voice getting stronger with each word. "He didn't post his own angry response. He didn't call you names on Facebook. He invited everyone here so they could see the truth for themselves. Because your father, unlike his son, believes in honesty. Derek stood there for a moment, swaying slightly as if he'd been hit. Then he turned and walked out of the house, Marissa and the children hurrying after him. Nobody said much after that. People hugged us, apologized for jumping to conclusions, helped Carol clean up. By evening, the house was quiet again. 6 months later, we sold the Phoenix house and moved to Flagstaff, to a cabin with a view of the mountains and space for a proper workshop. Carol planted a garden, and I learned to make furniture, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. Derek lost the house, of course. Without my guarantee, the mortgage company foreclosed within 3 months. They moved to a rental duplex in a less expensive part of town, and Derek took a second job delivering pizzas on weekends. The grandchildren visit us now, Tommy and Sarah, usually with Marissa's mother who brings them up from Phoenix every few weeks. They love the cabin, love the woods, love their grandmother's garden. They don't ask about their father, and we don't bring him up. Last month, I received a letter from Derek. It was short, handwritten on lined paper, and it said simply, "Dad, I'm sorry. I understand now. I love you." There was no return address, no phone number, no request for money or help. I showed it to Carol and she cried a little, but we didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt with words. Tommy turned 8 last week. His college trust fund now has enough money to pay for 4 years at any university in the country. Sarah's fund is growing too, and she's only 4. They'll never have to ask their parents for emergency loans or bail money or help with down payments. They'll learn to stand on their own feet, the way their grandfather did, the way their great-grandfather did. They'll learn that love isn't measured in dollars given, but in lessons taught and character built. And maybe, someday, they'll understand that the greatest gift their grandfather ever gave them wasn't money at all. It was the knowledge that they were strong enough to earn their own way in the world. If you liked this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions in the comments below. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision about supporting family members? Let us know your thoughts.